Popok, so good to see you again.
You too.
Thanks so much for joining this wrap up after this incredible day here in court in the Trump case and the People versus Donald Trump here in Manhattan. And we're giving Ben the day off so he can enjoy his uh, post-wedding bliss and his birthday, etc. It was great seeing you this weekend and hanging out with you and everybody, all the legal AFers. But let's get straight to what happened in court today. Today was a huge day. Michael Cohen was on the stand, and I'm just turning off my notifications so you don't hear the annoying dings. Michael Cohen finished. They did cross-examination and then redirect examination, and he finished today. The prosecution rested, and then the defense called Bob Costello to the stand. All the reporting is, and you said it too, Popok, that they should not call him. He'd be a terrible witness. And sure enough, that is what has happened. At one point, he was so audibly gasping and shaking his head and really showing disdain for the judge. At one point, he was actually staring the judge down. The judge cleared the courtroom, which he only would do if it was a safety concern. I mean, that is just absolutely more dramatic than you can imagine. They kicked the reporters out. They kicked everyone out of the courtroom. We don't know what happened. I'm sure when we get the transcripts, we will see what happened later. But I've never seen that happen with just a regular witness. It's usually if there's some kind of threat or physical altercation that happens in court. So that was extremely dramatic. They come back in, they finish the direct examination, and Bob Costello is now on cross-examination that is going to continue to tomorrow, Tuesday. So we'll see how that goes. Don't forget, Bob Costello was Michael Cohen's attorney for a period of time, or at least legal advisor, and he's a huge Trump supporter and a huge Trump person. So it's just absolutely a big, big day. We thought it was going to end quietly, but it was a big day. What do you think, Popok?
I think there was two. Thanks, Karen. Great to see you and your husband and everybody else in the legal AF world. I got to meet Salty in person, Jeremy in person, spend time with the brothers and Ben, and you were my plus one as my wife. We're about to have a baby. But let's speaking about having a baby. The judge was about to have a baby today on Bob Costello. Two major events today, as far as I'm concerned. One, the complete rehabilitation of Michael Cohen and any points that were scored that everybody was all excited about last week when Todd Blanche tried to catch Michael Cohen in a potential lie about that phone call 8 years ago that Michael Cohen said linked Donald Trump directly to the Stormy Daniels payoff. And he said, I had a phone call with him. It was on this date. And they said, well, how do you know, sir? Isn't it true that on that date you spoke to the bodyguard, not to Mr. Trump? And it was about something else, you being harassed by a 14-year-old. Isn't that true? Very dramatic. And we were like, why is Todd Blanche suddenly screaming? The jury's not receiving this well. And if you're going to do that, if you're going to scream like that, you better make sure that there isn't video evidence that counters your position and then it leads you to have to say basically never mind in front of the jury. So we'll talk about that on this wrap up. And then what just happened, talk about recency and primacy and recency. You got Bob Costello, who in New York, everybody knows, but outside of maybe even our legal AF audience, they don't quite know who Bob Costello is. Bob Costello is a long time kind of white collar criminal lawyer. That's a Republican that's been on the Trump side and has been auditioning to be Trump's, I don't know, attorney general, some lawyer for Donald Trump. He's represented MAGA. He's represented Bannon. He was involved with the impeachment hearings, even though he didn't actually appear in front of Congress. And 2 weeks ago, he appeared in front of Congress on behalf of Donald Trump to go after Michael Cohen and in front of the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee and go after Judge Merchan and the daughter as a complete shill and puppet for Donald Trump. So when we were together this weekend with the crew, Salty said to me, what about Bob Costello? I said, he's not going to testify. He's a loose cannon. He's known as a complete loose cannon in New York. He works for a firm that I've been up against that's just I can't even tell you how unprofessional they've been with me in the past. I said, that is a dangerous witness. They would never put him on. And the reporting is that Donald Trump himself overrode his own lawyers. Again, Donald Trump playing lawyer. Susan Nicholas and Todd Blanche, who did not want to put Bob Costello on to go after Michael Cohen because he's such a loose cannon. And Trump said, no, I want Bob Costello to go on the stand. And so he went on the stand. And within a moment, he self-destructed in front of the jury to the point where the judge had to clear the courtroom, as you said, and admonish him. And you can go over the notes on the admonishment, Karen. Admonish him about, are you rolling your eyes at me? Don't you act out in my courtroom. Don't you stare me down. Bob Costello forgot he entered the wood paneling of a courtroom presided over by a judge like Judge Merchan, and thinks he's kibitzing with Trump on the street corner in front of the bicycle racks during a press conference. He's a trial lawyer. He knows better, but he made it all about him and Donald Trump. And the jury got the message, and the jury started rolling their eyes and laughing at Bob Costello. That is not what you want to do on your last witness as a defense team. What did you make of Bob? What was Costello trying to accomplish, and what do you think he really accomplished in front of that jury?
Yeah, wow. I have the exact same thought that you have about this. I mean, this is just shocking that they would call Costello. I thought he was going to be called to say that certain statements that Michael Cohen made to me were lies, or had an email or something that would prove that Michael Cohen lied about something. But he didn't seem to land any punches. And the biggest thing that landed today, in my opinion, is the prosecution just blew the one defense point that they have landed against Michael Cohen out of the water, right? Last week on Thursday, there was this big dramatic 10 minutes that people were commenting that the trial is over, that Todd Blanche was yelling and caught Michael Cohen in this lie. And you would have thought from the reporting, I would have thought the trial's over. There's no hope. Oh my God, they caught Michael Cohen in this horrendous lie. And I spent the entire weekend, aside from being at Ben's wedding, but thankfully it was a 6-hour plane flight each way. I spent the entire time, Popok, combing through the transcripts and the evidence, and I'm still writing something that hopefully will I'll be able to. I just don't want to get it out and have it not be perfect and accurate, just to see, right? Like, is it really? I'm going to
do it.
To see how bad was it, and do you really need Michael Cohen? And today, and let's just kind of go back to what the context was, right? There was this whole period of time that was about a month before the election, and it was October, and the Access Hollywood tape had just come out. And the Stormy Daniels matter was bubbling back up, and they thought, we have to pay her off. It's terrible. And there was a series of text messages, phone calls, and emails, and other correspondence between various people, including Pecker, including Cohen, Weisselberg, and Trump. And Michael Cohen would reach Trump both personally as well as through other people, sometimes through his bodyguard, Mr. Schiller, sometimes through his Rona Graff, who was his executive assistant at the Trump Organization, and sometimes directly to Trump. Sometimes at one point, Melania texted Michael Cohen and said, and this text message went into evidence and said, can you call him? And he called him. So there were various ways that they would communicate, and every single one of them has a corresponding record, right? Whether it's a text, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a record of a phone call. So they know exactly how long these phone calls were, et cetera. There was one phone call, October 24th, where, again, we're talking now 2 weeks before the election. Donald Trump is busy. There is no way that Michael Cohen is calling Donald Trump and bothering him and talking to him unless it's something really urgent, right? Really important. And Michael Cohen says it was about the Stormy thing and talking about the Stormy thing, because they had to do this, right? Stormy Daniels was pulling out. She didn't want to, she wasn't getting paid. She's going to go public. And so he says, yeah, so what I did was I texted with Mr. Schiller, the bodyguard. I knew they were together, so I could get Trump on the phone. And then there was a 96-second call between them. And what the cross-examination that happened that was apparently so dramatic was the text message. There were text messages between Cohen and Schiller right before the call where Cohen was talking about something entirely different. He was talking about a 14-year-old who was harassing him and he needed help with that. Well, that makes sense that he would ask Schiller about that. He's a bodyguard. So of course he's going to say to Schiller, do that. But he's not going to ask to put Trump on the phone and talk to Trump about some 14-year-olds harassing him. He's going to talk to Trump about the thing that they were talking about that's urgent to Trump, who is campaigning actively, trying to win the presidency at that exact moment. He's not going to call him up and say, hey, you have to help me with this. Michael Cohen is the fixer, not Donald Trump. Right? So why would the fixer call Trump to get help with a 14-year-old harassing him? That is clearly something he would ask Schiller about. And so the cross-examination was all about how he's a liar. It's about the 14-year-old. The text messages show that he's a liar, 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 pants on fire. And the prosecution today put in a photograph that showed, it was a still photo from a video taken literally 5 minutes before the phone call between Schiller and Trump, showing them leaving a campaign rally together on stage. So they were together.
Yeah, that was a masterful moment for your office, because what happened there is that I don't know if Josh Steinglass and the others in your office, your former office, were playing an elaborate game of liar's poker. Not that I would ever accuse the prosecutors of doing that. I don't know if Time and Weather was on the phone with Josh Steinglass, but he told the judge, we're contacting the C-SPAN archivist right now in Louisiana. We'll have him on the plane for tomorrow. And now you've got Nicholas and Blanche looking like, do we really want the video being played through the archivist where the jury just sits there eating popcorn? Or should we maybe just agree to have one still from the video and we'll stipulate to it and have it come in through Michael Cohen, which was a great win for the prosecution. So that's how that got resolved. This still here that we just put up on the screen, October 24th, 2016, that comes into evidence at the exact date and time when approximately Michael Cohen says he had the phone call in which he talked to Schiller and Trump in the same phone call. And after Blanche said, you couldn't possibly, in that short amount of time, how do you even know Trump was there? And there's a photo that shows exactly that he was there. Total rehabilitation for Donald Trump. Let's keep going with Costello, though. My question to you was him being chastised in front of the jury for disrespecting the judge. What do you think? And the jury now picking up on that and laughing at Costello, not with him, as he acts out and continues to act out in front of the judge. What do you think this is doing? What fact are they trying to prove for the defense that goes to the elements of the crime, or provide a defense for which Robert Costello was worth it? And what do you think it's doing to the jury?
I think it was, well, don't forget, right? Costello testified in the grand jury. He was the only defense witness that went into the grand jury at the request of the defense. And so the prosecution knew what he was going to say. I think it was just to say that, and you probably know better than I, but I think it was just to say that he spoke to Michael Cohen, I think something like 75 times. And over and over and over again, he would say, they're trying to pressure me, meaning the feds are trying to pressure me to give up Trump, and I don't have anything on Trump. And said something like, I swear to you, if I had something on Trump, I would tell you, and all that kind of stuff. And so he's just, I think it's a general discrediting of him, and that he's lying about all of this because of that. I don't know. What is your theory?
Again, I think this is a case where this was too smart by half of a trial strategy, because it's being concocted from the fevered mind of Donald Trump. And Nicholas and Blanche once again show that they have no ability to speak truth to power and tell their client, this is a terrible idea. He's not prepared. He's not controllable. And what are we trying to prove with him to try to discredit Michael Cohen, which was the point that the Susan Hoffinger and others in your old office made to the judge. Like, why is this guy here? To criticize and give his opinions about Michael Cohen? The narrow path that Costello, I think, needed to walk, as you said, which he was never going to be able to do. he's just genetically incapable of doing what he was required to do, was to sort of demonstrate that Michael Cohen is a liar, because he, at the moment in time, in real time, when if he had the goods on Donald Trump, he would have confessed to it. But the jury's already heard that when Michael Cohen, in his words, was elbow deep in the cult of Donald Trump, he did and said things that were both untrue and embarrassing. They even got today in redirect, the prosecution even got out on purpose. It wasn't an accident that Michael Cohen stole from the Trump organization about 30 grand in a consulting fee to this made up company that he set up. And so we are getting the full picture. The jury knows. The jury's a bunch of New Yorkers. They know who Michael Cohen is. They know his good, bad, and ugly, but they know the part where he's been telling the truth. And I think all these things have only reinforced that. By contrast, to have a member of the bar try to stare down the judge, and just so people understand what happens, why don't we have a clip from CNN in real time that goes over what happened, and then you and I can sort of comment on it. Salty, can we run that clip?
The fact that this has escalated to this extent, this is part of why there was disagreement within the Trump world about whether they should call Bob Costello. The only reason he is being called is because the client insisted that he be called. There were people on Trump's team that thought he would be too much of a liability. And Paula, the fact that the judge has now reprimanded him for staring him down, this is really taking a turn.
So, that's what I was getting to that. He told Costello in a raised voice when he told the jury to leave, Mr. Costello, you're to remain seated. The jury leaves. Then Costello, after another sustained objection, Costello rolls his eyes, lets out an audible sigh, side glances the judge. The judge says, I want to discuss proper decorum in my courtroom. The judge says, you don't give me a side eye and you don't roll your eyes. The judge says, when there's a witness on the stand, if you don't like my ruling, you don't say geez, you don't say strike it. Costello holds a long glare at the judge. Judge Merchan says, are you staring me down? Then the judge says, clear the courtroom. There's yelling by security officers at the press to leave. The video is cut. Court security says nobody can come back in. Paula, you have a JD. You've been covering court cases for quite some time. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, this is unbelievable, and I know Bob Costello quite well. I've talked to him for about a decade. The fact that he would allow this to happen on the stand, it suggests in many ways that he is probably posturing for the defendant. Remember, it's the defendant that overrode his own defense attorneys. They said this is not a good idea. Do not put Costello on the stand. He overrode them because he loved Costello's performance in Congress last week, where he attacked not only Bob Costello, but also this case and the judge. So the fact that Costello would conduct himself in a trial like this, potentially jeopardize a case like this, I am actually pretty surprised, but it validates the concerns that have been expressed by members of Trump's defense team about why they did not want to call Costello, and also reminds us why when the defendant calls the shots and not the defense attorneys, you can have something like this happen.
And Paul.
Yeah, and Karen, it didn't stop there. When the jury came back in, and apparently it was a little bit of a hot mic moment, when the judge wasn't done reprimanding Costello and the jury was filing back in, but they got the hint. And when the testimony resumed, Costello did when another objection got sustained against him, he let out an audible Jesus, and I thought the judge was going to clear the courtroom again. All this for a peripheral witness that was never going to win the case for Donald Trump. It's almost like he knows he's going to lose. He's going to get his money's worth. I'm talking about Trump.
You think he's auditioning for a role in the administration?
Absolutely. I mean, he wants to, for whatever reason, he just wants to continue to curry favor with Donald Trump. And it had to be a white knuckle moment. I got to see the face on Blanche when he's standing in front of that bicycle rack for the press conference today, because this was not what they wanted. And of course, Donald Trump's not going to testify. They'll finish up with Costello. Donald Trump is not testifying, whether they wanted him to or not. But yeah, Costello was always a wild card. That's why I know you were looking at things in the wedding, and I said at the wedding, point blank, no way Bob Costello goes on. What, to criticize Michael Cohen?
Yeah, it just seems like, look, I've practiced, obviously, I've practiced in that courtroom for 30 years. I've had many trials. I've put unlike many lawyers, I was not a white collar practitioner. I was a violent crime practitioner. So I've put some incredibly unsavory people on the witness stand, literally, people who have been accused of all sorts of things. I have never had a judge have to clear the courtroom, ever. I mean, I even had in a murder trial, I'll never forget it. On murder trial, there was a defendant that didn't like we were playing the confession. He didn't like it, even though it was him confessing to the murder. He didn't like it. And he gets up and he starts walking towards the judge. And, it turns out he was just walking out of the courtroom through the back because he was incarcerated, right? So, and the court officers were like, I am not going to jump on this murderer who's walking towards the judge because that'll cause a mistrial. It'll be prejudicial in front of the jury. They had the sense to not do that, to just kind of guide him in the back. And then after that, the judge says, we're going to take a break. But there was no like clear the courtroom dramatic moment. Like that is so dramatic. When you think about it, I can't imagine what that must have been like at the time. That is just one of these moments. He's an officer of the court, and he was staring down the judge. But that is just.
And to remind people that don't practice in courtrooms like Karen and me, the jury was in the courtroom, and the judge said, "Clear the courtroom." I mean, they may not know why, and there's no curative instruction.
I'm sure they know why. I'm sure they saw it.
Yeah. Sometimes when that's happened to me, and I've had one where in a civil trial, there was going to be an almost mistrial and the judge cleared the courtroom. When we came back, we did ask the judge to give a curative instruction. So almost like a little bit of a white lie about, well, we were handling some administrative issues, so that the jury would not take away anything from that. So we also have new reporting just at the end of the day. We do this wrap up, or you do the wrap up with Ben regularly. We got a directed verdict motion, as we've all predicted. Once again, the Trump side saying, Michael Cohen is such a liar that no reasonable jury could find, and convict. Therefore, judge, directed verdict, take it away from the jury. And do you know what happened there, Karen? To comment?
He reserved. Look, just so everybody knows, every single time the prosecution finishes their case and puts it all in, 100% of the time the defense asks for a directed verdict. Like that's just part of the procedure. It's like
you have to, or you waive it for appeal.
Right. Yeah. It's always done. So just because it was asked, don't glean anything from it. Right. And the judge, it's funny, a reporter asked me this morning, what's going to happen next? I said, there's going to be a motion for a directed verdict. And they said, will the judge rule on it? I said, probably not. The judge will probably reserve, because that's what they always do. They reserve until the end. And it's just so typical. So the judge reserved. It doesn't mean-
so here's the comments from reporters in the courtroom. Blanche jumps up and says it's all based on Cohen, basically. And the judge says, you want me to take away from the jury and you want me to rule as a matter of law that Michael Cohen testimony was an irrefutable lie? He says, well, judge, that just yes. And he says, all right, let me hear the prosecution. The prosecution, of course, makes the argument that a rational juror could conclude that the business records contain false information at the direction caused by, as you said during our Wednesday show, caused by Donald Trump. And at the end, Todd Blanche tries to get the last word in as if this matters. And he says to the judge, a conspiracy doesn't happen, Your Honor, just because three people get together and talk. If this is a prelude to his closing argument, his 20-minute closing argument, like to match his 20-minute opening for good luck. I mean, I know everybody that doesn't do what we do for a living, and we could be wrong. I mean, that's why I joke that we're the almost never wrong podcast. We could be wrong. But for people that latched onto, as you pointed out earlier, Karen, Michael Cohen's one comment about an 8-year-old conversation, that the entire case was going to come crumbling down around the feet of the prosecutors because of it, I'm sorry, then you don't practice law regularly or trial work if you think that was going to happen off 20 witnesses over 4 weeks for a jury that had been conditioned. I think you used a phrase I liked a lot during our midweek, conditioned to you said reprove, corroborate. You had a good phrase that you said he did, that the prosecutors did over and over and over again with the witnesses. not rehabilitate.
Pre-corroborated.
Pre-corroborate. Thank you. Over and over and over and over again before he took the stand. I call it impermissible bolstering, but in any event, it happened, and they're ready, and they know. I mean, this jury of educated Manhattan people, Manhattanites, they know Michael Cohen. They know Michael Cohen's, and I believe that this is me, hopium. They're fine with him ultimately, but it doesn't help that on the final moment of Michael Cohen's testimony, the photo of the exact date and time when he said Schiller, the bodyguard, handed Trump the phone, is on C-SPAN.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, they just, the prosecution has corroborated every single thing that Michael Cohen has said, and the defense seemed, and if you were to read the transcript, the defense was yelling apparently that they caught him in this lie. Well, guess what? There was a photo that proved it to be true. There it is, right there. There's Trump's. If you saw the video, you'd see it was Trump's face and his unmistakable dyed blonde hair that is so hairspray that it doesn't move. I saw that in court. I couldn't believe it.
Schiller looks like, put that picture back up, Salty. Schiller looks like he belongs in children's nightmares.
Yeah, no, he definitely looks like what was it, Lurch or whatever that guy was.
Yeah, I was thinking Freddy Krueger, but yeah,
well,
I get you.
I don't know, it was a little scary, but they were together, and again, it just defies common sense that Cohen is going to talk to Trump about being bullied by a 14-year-old. Like that's what you ask the guy who's the bodyguard about. But he's going to talk to Trump 2 weeks before the election. It's going to be very, very important. Look, the other thing that the news reporting said today, and this is my frustration with the mainstream media, is they actually get it wrong. And like I said, they last week when they were reporting about this October 24th call, I thought the case was over based on the way they reported it. But frankly, when you read the testimony and you read the transcripts and you look at the evidence and talk to people who are in the courtroom, it's just not the way it was reported. I mean, look, the jury still gets to decide. It's still completely up to the jury, but it's not the way it was reported. And again, today, there was this reporting that when Todd Blanche was cross-examining Michael Cohen about the $50,000 that was paid. Remember, the grossed up $420,000 came from multiple sources. It was the $130,000 repayment. It was grossed up, meaning double to look like it was income. Plus his bonus was on there. Plus there was this $50,000 to, I think it was called Redfinch or something like that. This organization that was providing fake polling essentially on Donald Trump's behalf. Todd Blanche was like, so you only paid Redfinch $20,000, right? And he said, right. So what happened to the other $30,000? He's like, I kept it. And I didn't think, just because that's what we ended up paying, I didn't think Trump should get the benefit of it. So Todd Blanche is like, so you stole from the Trump organization? And he said, yes, he did. The news media was breathless that they called it prosecutorial malpractice, that they didn't bring this out on direct, that Cohen's a thief. Oh my God, look, they caught him in another now situation that he would steal, and he stole all this money, which is a higher felony than even Donald Trump is charged with. Oh my God, the case is over, and how could the prosecution do this? And again, thank God someone on TV was like, went and looked back and said, guess what? The prosecution did bring it out. But the people on TV were so committed to this, and I think they didn't want to look like they were flat-footed. They had to still dig into this position, and they had to still continue on with the prosecution didn't underscore it, and it was so dramatic, and this was again so terrible, a terrible day for the prosecution, great day for the defense. So I texted some of my friends who are in the courtroom and just said, and I was like, is this true? How did it land? Because there's nothing like actually being there to see how the jury, experience it the way the jury's experiencing it. And they were like, what are you talking about? No, it was the opposite. So it's just crazy to me. Look, again, there's still it ain't over till it's over. There's still, there's still the jury, there's still summations, and the jury is going to have to obviously decide. But this is a horse race, to say the least. It is not lost, and it's not these crazy dramatic moments the way the mainstream media is reporting. The only dramatic thing that happened was clearing the courtroom with Trump's only witness. That was it.
So let's just summarize for your update tomorrow morning with Ben. Costello's going to go back on the stand. Is he the last witness for the
We don't
defense?
know. Well, I mean, the hope
Overnight.
We'll see. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see.
right.
Yeah, exactly. Until they rest, you
Todd
don't know.
Blanche put on his paralegal. That must have been scintillating testimony from the paralegal who looked at bills and put together a summary chart of all the times Michael Cohen spoke to Bob Costello. The jury has got to be at their wits' end. They're like, can we just get to deliberate? We're ready to deliberate. We don't need to hear from the paralegal who looked at a phone bill. That's what they're down to now for the defense. So let's say Costello and or one other person. Michael Cohen's done. Costello will be done. Defense will rest, prosecution rest. Then you and I haven't seen the jury instructions. Then we get to the charge conference. They've already made their motion for directed verdict, which will be denied. And then they got to charge the jury. Have you heard whether they're going to use Wednesday, which is usually dark though, but because of the holiday, they're going to use Wednesday as a trial day?
No, they're actually it's tomorrow, and then they're adjourning until the following Tuesday, where they will there'll be summations and then charge.
Perfect. Because we were debating that. There's no way, and I've had that happen where I've done a close and then days go by, which you hate. Yeah, so they're going to wrap up all court work tomorrow, get over the Memorial Day holiday to Tuesday, summations, closing argument, right? You said defense first, prosecution last. And then charging, and we'll have a verdict by the end. We'll have a verdict before the end of next week.
Yep, we should.
It's amazing. Well, what are we going to do with our time once it's over? You and Ben in the mornings with coffee.
You know what? I actually have to go back to my day job. It's true. Today, I have work. I have actual work to do, and I can't take my eyes off the.
Remember that time that you got sucked down the Phony Willis hole for an entire day? You didn't even do like a hot take on it. You were just watching it.
Yeah, I was watching it, and then we were live commenting with people, like we're doing it live now. And I'm kind of, as we're talking, I'm looking at the comments. I'm seeing what people are saying. People are donating, which we appreciate so much. It's amazing. It's amazing how many people are here with us in the live chat. So we appreciate
our audience. There's a photo that we're waiting to come out from one of the photographers at Ben's wedding of all of us together. So people are like, where's that photo? It exists. It's just it exists. We weren't smart enough to use our iPhone at the same time. So there is a photo. Okay, Karen, this is your show. How do you want to handle it?
Look, thank you so much for stepping in. We'll see what Ben's doing tomorrow morning. Maybe you and I can do that together as well. And Ben needs to get a little break. Just so everybody knows, we're kind of forcing this break on Ben. If it were up to him, he would be here, and he's not taking any time. But we're kind of forcing him to have just.
We lose Karen at the end there.
A few moments.
Yeah.
So.
Picture him in a straitjacket. We have him tied up, or at least his wife does, and away from the keyboard. But always listen. I relish the opportunity to spend more time with you. I was happy to do it. You and I are going to see each other for dinner tomorrow night, right?
Oh yeah, the dinner that
I have to pay for. I mean, I'm going to pay for.
Yes, because why? Because why?
Because you were right on something.
Yeah, we lost a bet. You lost a bet.
Yeah, I should have made a bet with you about Trump testifying, and then I could have got it back. I would have paid for dinner anyway. And we're bringing one of our producers who you and I have never met in person, who happens to live in New York and Brooklyn. Sydney. Sid Cap is going to be coming to dinner. We're looking forward to that.
We have three great producers for Legal AF. We have Sydney, Jeremy, and Salty. And we met Jeremy and Salty for the first time in person this weekend, and we'll meet Sydney this week. So it's great.
Yeah. Always great. All right. We
All
wrapped?
right. Yeah, we're done. So anyway, thanks, Pope, and maybe I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a good night.
Absolutely. Shout out to the Midas Mighty and the Legal AFers.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the Midas Touch newsletter at MidasTouch.com/newsletter.